I've heard a lot of people say that getting to the first 100k of net worth is the hardest, and that the next 100k is a lot easier. I've also heard a lot of people say the first million is harder to reach than the second million. So why is that the case? Surely each 100k, each million should be as hard or as easy as the last. In this video, I'm going to reveal why and also how you can reach these milestones even quicker. But first, let me start by sharing some advice from a legend. Charlie Munger was the vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, the investment company owned by Warren Buffett. Sadly, Charlie Munger passed away recently and left a personal fortune estimated well over $2 billion. He also helped Warren Buffett build Berkshire Hathaway into the 8th most valuable company by market cap in the world. Charlie Munger had some great advice to share to those starting their journey to building wealth. He said, saving the first 100k is challenging but necessary. It's a bitch, but you gotta do it. He also went on to say, I don't care what you have to do if it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon. Find a way to get your hands on $100,000. So why does Charlie reflect at that first 100k being so difficult to make, decades of having made billions? And why is getting your hands on that first 100k so important? There are 4 key reasons why it gets easier and easier the more wealth you accumulate. The first is the power of compound growth. Imagine you walk out on Christmas Day and it is a beautiful white Christmas. You run outside to make a snowman with your kids, with your friends, and start building up a ball of snow to start pushing. You'll notice that to start with, it's quite hard work. It takes a lot of effort, but as you build momentum, that ball of snow gets bigger and bigger. It becomes easier and easier to pick up more and more snow as you roll that ball. Compound growth works much the same way. As you save more and more, your money is able to grow more and more quickly. So imagine you then push that snowball down a never-ending hill. The ball will keep rolling, picking up more and more snow, getting bigger and bigger without you ever having to even touch it, even push it. This is what Charlie Munger means by the first 100k being toughest, as that first 100k is usually made up by 100% of your labor, the money you make from a job, for instance. But then the next 100k might be made up of just 80% of your labor, with the other 20% coming from the money your initial 100k has made you from investing it. Then the next 100k might only take 60% of your labor, because the other 40% is coming from your current investments. And so the cycle continues. As this graph illustrates, it just gets easier and easier. If you save 10k a year, it takes 7.84 years to reach 100k, but then the next 100k takes 5.1 years, then the next 3.78 years, and the next 3.01 years. So you get the point. But the main reason this all starts to get so exciting is number 2, intrinsic motivation. As your snowball gets bigger and therefore the money it produces becomes easier and easier to make in larger and larger quantities, the whole process of investing becomes a more motivational process. A bit like when you learn a ball game or a video game. At first, it can be really frustrating trying to learn it, trying to get better at it. But the better and better you get, the more and more motivation that creates for you to keep going. At the beginning of your journey, you're fueled with extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is where you're creating motivation in order to attain the reward or avoid a negative impact. So you'll study for an exam because you want to pass or because you don't want to fail, or you're sacrificing what you spend today to save for your future. Where things get interesting is when your motivation shifts from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. This is where you start to convert to finding the activity inherently rewarding. So you spend your time building a snowman because you enjoy it, not because you have to or because you're paid to. As investing snowballs, it converts into a fun activity, making you more and more money rather than an activity taking money out your pocket. The more you make, the more you will naturally enjoy it more and more. For me, investing is like gardening now. I enjoy the process of planting seeds, watching the plants grow, harvesting the fruit to then replant into even more plants for the future. But where things get really interesting and really start to pour jet fuel onto things is number 3, leverage. The thing that shocked me is as I built more and more wealth, it got easier and easier for me to borrow money to build even more wealth. We call this leverage. The fantastic thing about debt is you don't pay tax on it. So if your investment creates you 100k of profit, you're then taxed on that profit before you can reinvest it or spend it. But if you raise 100k of debt against your investments, that is 100% tax-free. So you can use that debt to invest in assets that then produce you even more money. So although debt can be a fantastic tool to accelerate your wealth, building even more wealth quicker, it is something to use cautiously and make sure you use debt wisely. On number 4, income generating assets. If you can use debt to borrow 100k and it costs you 5k a year to borrow, but you can spend that 100k on an asset that produces you 10k a year, you're then making a 5k profit a year on debt, on money that isn't even yours. This is where you can really start to multiply your wealth. There are lots of income generating assets out there, but the main one people consider is property or real estate investments. 90% of millionaires invest in property because it is as safe as houses. So it rarely goes down in value and long term almost always goes up in value. But importantly, it creates income in the form of rent. So it is a great asset to borrow money against as you have a person living in it, paying the cost of the debt and making a nice profit on top. But of course, you can consider a whole range of other income generating assets. If you're interested in what those are and want to build your wealth further, check out my other videos.